Gentlemen, welcome to the Microwave Lab. Today I'm going to be talking about the Uniden Bearcat 980 single sideband radio. This is going to be somewhat of an overview video, talking about some features, why I chose the radio. We'll open it up, take a look at build quality, look for anything that looks suspicious. So first I'll talk about why I chose this radio. It was pretty much a toss-up between this, the Cobra 29, and the Galaxy 959. And so when I was looking for radios, I definitely wanted single sideband probably as first priority. I wanted the scan function as well, and I wanted weather stations too as a bonus if it had it. And so looking at the Cobra, is very similar to this with the LCD display. Has pretty much the same features, but the Cobra didn't have single sideband. It had a few other things built in, like an alarm clock and countdown timer, which would be great if you're a truck driver or you just want to keep tabs on your driving time, or maybe in a motorhome. It helps to have extra features like that. But it didn't have single sideband, and the Galaxy 959 had single sideband, and 959 is an old classic radio, been around a long time. Had single sideband, but it didn't have weather, and it didn't have a scan function. I did like the interface on the 959. It's sort of the old classic look with all the knobs. It doesn't have the new sort of LCD driven, menu driven design like the newer radios. And I even like the Cobra layout as well. One of my gripes with this radio is the meter on the front takes up a lot of space, and it's not really necessary. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. So that's why I went with this radio. It's got the weather, it's got the sideband, it's got the scan. So it had all the features I wanted, and it was about $115 on Amazon. And it came with, I wish this was more of an unboxing video. I've already installed everything in for the radio in my car, like the power cable, and the holder, or the bracket, so I can't really do an unboxing and show exactly what it came with, but I have most of the stuff here, so I'll sort of show what it came with. It came with everything you need, and some good accessories and things as well. So first I'm actually going to talk about the mic, so I'm just going to flip the radio off here, and then we'll talk about the mic. So the mic is kind of standard, kind of generic. It's a 6-pin mic, and the radio came with, let's see if I can find it over. It came with this, I guess, adapter jumper. It goes from a 6-pin to a 4-pin. Pretty nicely built, but yeah, so if you wanted to use an aftermarket mic, this mic has been fine. I know people have complained about it. There's actually a small modification I made that I'll get into in a minute, but this mic's been fine for me. Maybe I'd be blown away by an aftermarket mic or a powered mic, yada yada, more power or more swing, more modulation, that kind of thing, but this one's fine for now, just to get started. So I'm actually, externally, I wish the mic was a little bit smaller. Just inside a car, space is at a premium. I'd like things to be as small as possible, but it's not too bad if it's an well. It's comfy, nothing sharp or sticking out or plastic flashing left over, nothing like that. So that's a good thing. It has this the sort of knob on the back, standard on most mics, to fit a holder bracket, and this bracket actually fits on the side of the radio. There are these screw holes. You can either mount it horizontally or vertically, and the same on the other side as well, depending on how you have the radio oriented. And you can also sort of dial in some tension on this to hold the mic if you want it to just sort of rest in there, or if you want it to actually clip in. So that's kind of nice. So I'm going to open the mic up now. The other thing was the strain relief on the mic end is very good, and there's actually, when I open it up, you'll see there's this rubber piece extends into a larger piece on the inside, so there's no way this will get pulled out. It's pretty well done, but on the other end, it's a little bit cheap. There isn't really much strain relief. There's just the sort of the bezel of the plug screwed in, and then there's like some heat shrink or something here. Not very convincing, and I would actually rather see more strain relief on this end because of where this plugs into the radio. You'd rather, you don't want too much tension or torque or any axial or radial force on the plug, because that could loosen inside. You might have connection problems, might have to be replaced. But on the other end, I mean, if you have like you have to replace a mic. That's easier to do than replacing one of these. So a little bit disappointing on that. The strain relief on the socket end. But I'm gonna go grab my screwdrivers and get the mic open. There's 3 Phillips head screws in the back, so we'll get it opened up and we'll take a look inside. Alright, so I've got the mic opened up here. Sort of comes apart in 2 halves, and so this is what I was talking about earlier with the strain relief. On the inside, it sort of fits into the little channel there and locks in pretty well. So definitely a good strain relief on this end of the mic, or on this end of the cable rather. And the other thing about the cable, I should have said earlier, is I think in the manual it says something like 9 feet of mic cable. Now this is, as it's coiled up, maybe about 3 feet. And if I hold it out at arm's length and stretch it, that's 6 feet, and I don't think I'd want it stretching any more than that, just to give you an idea of the length. And it retracts pretty well and pretty compact, so it works well. No complaints from me. So I split the mic open here, and so I'm going to talk about on the front end. I'll talk about the modification I did on the front end. There's it came with there's a little like felt like cheesecloth kind of thing. I think that's just visually, so from the outside you can't see through. But there's also this in there, and I think this is like, I get it, like noise canceling P filter kind of thing. It's like a rubber disc. You see, it's just soft rubber with like some cheesecloth or cotton or something in there, and this was completely blocking the audio. So I took this out. Actually, first you can see the edges are a little bit rough. I tried to cut out the hole a little bit bigger, about doubled the size, but that didn't really help. So I just took it out, but left the black piece in there just for visual, and to keep any like spit or anything out of the voice coil. So yeah, that was the only modification I did. Maybe that's why people are having trouble with this mic. I just took that out and it helped a lot. So that's one quick mod you can do. And so looking over at the rest of the mic, the mic's pretty light. You can see there's plenty of empty space in there. So I with that empty space, I wish it was a little bit smaller, just to save space in a vehicle. But the button, the push to talk button, works well, and I can see this is a 6-pin mic. I don't know where all 6 pins are used in here. If you look at the top on the switch, there are 5 wires coming out of there, and then when it gets over to it condenses down to about 4 on the cable coming out. Let me get it in view. On the cable coming out over here, I think it condenses down to 4, so I don't know where the 6 pins are being used. But anyway, one thing I wanted to point out with the button is actually very well designed. Let me get something here to point out with. If I can get this in view. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so when you push the push to talk button, which is smooth and quiet, it works well. It's actually the physical stop for the button is this plastic piece above this sort of actuating arm here. So, which is good for longevity, because that means that you're not having the switch stop the push to talk buttons. So if the switch and the the components in here were stopping the push, you might wear out this switch, but instead there's the buffer here. This is stopping the button, and so I figured that out by pushing the push to talk button down, and you won't be able to see, but you can still wiggle this little armature in here that actually depresses the switch inside here. So definitely a good forethought on that, for good for longevity, the switch. And there's a little bit of can't really see it. There's a little bit of a foam, like a foam pad behind this behind the switch here to prevent any rattling or anything. So that was another nice little feature. So overall, the mic I think is pretty good. Others have complained, and I'm sure there are plenty of better mics out there, powered mics, whatever. But overall, not too bad. So I'm going to put this back together, and we'll jump over to the radio. Alright, so now we'll turn our attention to the radio. So one of the biggest complaints people have with this radio is the beep that it makes, which I really don't find that annoying. There are plenty of mods out there for removing the beep. This is like, I think, a second generation of this radio, so the circuit board's a little bit different than it used to be, but it's probably not too obtrusive to figure out. I don't mind the beep. It beeps every time you push a button or change a channel. So maybe it gets annoying. I've been using the radio about 2 months, and I haven't minded it at all. So yeah, not really a big deal. If you want a really in-depth video about the operation and going through menus and features and things, check out CB Radio Magazine. They have a great video. Their YouTube channel, they have a great video on going through the menus and what all the buttons do and everything. But I'm just going to put my 2 cents in. All the buttons and things feel pretty solid. There's a, you probably can't hear with the beep, but actually, maybe you can hear, probably can't hear, a little bit like an audible click, and you can feel it click when you push the buttons. The buttons are rubber. They're not plastic, which they might look to be, but they're comfy to push. It's the tactile and audible feedback of pressing them, so that's kind of nice. The switch, or the rotary switch, is probably a quadrature encoder or something like that. It's pretty solid. Sometimes you can get stuck in between detents, but it hasn't really happened too much. This just pushing that is how you get through the menu. Just exit that. Yeah, a rotary switch, or the for channels or for other things. It feels good. The only thing that isn't backlit on here is the clarifier knob. So the coarse clarifier is on the outside and the fine clarifier is on the inside. And so if you look, I'm going to turn the radio off so the light isn't in the way. If you look at the clarifier switch, it's actually skewed a little bit to the right, or clockwise, from vertical. And so when I first got the radio, I checked that, and I was a little bit concerned that maybe the frequency of the clarifier would be thrown off a little bit because it was rotated a little bit. But inside the radio, if you look, the entire housing for the clarifier is twisted a little bit, so that's just a mounting error, or it was just when they tightened it down, it just turned a little bit. So it's not a defect or anything. That's just how it was put together. So no big deal on that. It was a false alarm. So the radio, just in general, it's got this sort of, I guess, chrome-plated plastic, or sort of black chrome bezel on it, which looks kind of nice. Gets fingerprints on it, but it looks cool. And the rest of it's sort of this like powder-coated steel. Nothing too fancy. It looks nice. Sort of matte finish. So what else? Here's the bracket it came with. It didn't come with this whole bracket. I actually fashioned this aluminum piece to bolt on because I needed more surface area in my mounting. But so this U bracket is what it came with, and it's 16th inch steel. I just measured it, and it's actually really solid. I was really impressed with it, and so I put a little bit of a bend in it to accommodate my dashboard, because I have this mounted on top of my dash with the Velcro. And so yeah, definitely a thumbs up on the bracket. It's not cheap at all. Holds the radio just fine. I just needed more surface area because it was a little bit wobbly with the Velcro. And so this also comes with the these big knobs that go on the side to they screw in on the sides of the radio. And these knobs are really comfy, really easy to use. And with the large size, you can really get a lot of torque on there. Even has a slot for a flathead screwdriver. And it also came with rubber washers that sort of go on the inside of the bracket to hug the radio. And these have been just fine as well. They're soft, help make sure you won't scratch up your radio with the bracket. So definitely +1 on the mounting bracket. I'm trying to think of anything else the radio came with. It also came, of course, it came with screws for the mic holder. Those are in my car. And that was about it. Oh, and the power cable, the one it came with is excellent. It was about 6 feet long. I have it mounted in my car right now, but it was about 6 feet long. It was 14 or 16 gauge. I can't remember. Plenty big for the power of the radio. And it had an inline. There's this secondary power cable I bought just for bench testing and things. And so this actually, the one that came with the radio had an inline fuse holder about maybe like a foot from the plug end. And it's a really nice fuse holder, spring loaded. So the power cable, I can't say enough good things about the power cable. It was great. About 6 feet long, if I didn't mention it yet. And that was long enough for me to mount in my car, so I was pretty happy about that. So that's about it for what came with the radio. I think we'll open it up and take a look inside. Alright, so we've got the radio open up here. Radio's upside down. You can see by this speaker, which is on the bottom. And the speaker is actually great. When I'm in my car, I usually leave the volume at about halfway, about 12 o'clock, and it's plenty loud, so no real need for an external speaker unless you're mounting in dash or you have it sort of farther away from where you're sitting or listening. So yeah, definitely a plus on the speaker. And so just got to be careful when you take it apart. There are 6 screws to get the bottom cover off. There are 2 on the side, one here, and 2 on the other side. So that's 6 total. And you can get I guess the top of the radio off just as easily by doing the same thing, but there's nothing interesting under there. And so on the inside here, you can see it's mostly surface mount stuff. A few electrolytic caps, little transformer, relay, a few ICs hanging around the edge, pinned onto the side for heat sinking, a few adjustable cans. Pretty clean look on the inside. So first thing I wanted to point out was on the power side here, where these really small wires here delivering power to the board from the plug. So like I said, this is an aftermarket power cord that I got, but the stock one is like 14 gauge, and it jumps down to this. These are like, my guess would be about 22 gauge. I actually just measured the diameter, and it's about 30 thou or so, which is even smaller than, I just checked on my gauge here, it's even smaller than the 18 gauge, so my guess would be about 22 gauge, which is kind of unfortunate, or rather a little bit puzzling that you'd have such large cables coming for power and then you'd pipe down to a 22 gauge. So I guess, yeah, that just means you don't have to be so, you don't have to go crazy on your cable diameter for power, because it's just being piped down to this size anyway. The other thing is that only 2 of the 3 plugs or rails are being used. I assume the middle plug is another 12-volt rail. That's a classic 3-pin CB radio power cable. So maybe if you're mounting a stinger board being an internal amplifier, so if you needed power for something like that, or maybe a better speaker, something along those lines, you have that rail available for 12 volts. So it was just a little bit puzzling that they have it but they don't use it, but I guess they wanted to stick with the classic cable. So I've talked about it in my other videos, but the potentiometers are really tiny, and when you turn them, they don't have a stop at the max and min. They just keep turning, so you have to be conscious of that when you're tuning. And so if I grab my screwdriver, this is a 2mm flathead screwdriver, and that fits perfectly inside the tops of the potentiometer for adjustment. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to do some tuning. You probably have a precision screwdriver kit laying around that'll fit. What else is going on? Final transistor tuning, at least I think that's what it is. Bumped up the power a little bit with that. And I have other videos about tuning. This is another interesting thing that was in here, was this sort of jumper that's soldered between these 2 resistors and this can over here. And this is how I got it from the factory. So my guess is that they either this was like first production run of this new revision of the circuit board, I guess, and there was some issue they figured it'd be easier to take care of like this for the first few hundred or thousand or whatever, or else maybe this board or radio didn't pass the quality control test, and this was the easiest way to fix it, was just with this quick jumper. And so it hasn't affected anything. Radio still works just fine, but I wanted to point that out. It was a little bit interesting. Other than that, there's not a whole lot to talk about in here. Nothing else. The most questionable thing was the diameter of these wires, which is a little bit anemic for the given the size of the power cable. But so that's about it for the inside. There's another board up here behind the dial face, or the face of the radio, and so people have theorized that this is a software-defined radio at its core, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't really know how to tell. There might be an FPGA on the other side of the PCB, but there's a small IC hiding under this this bracket here. So maybe it is a software-defined radio, maybe it isn't. That might just be for the display. But maybe with all these little components, it's all implemented in hardware like a classic radio. So maybe somebody with more well-trained eyes than me could figure that out. So that's about all for the inside of the radio. Alright, so we're back over here with the radio powered on. Just wanted to run through some of the features, show output power, that kind of thing. One thing I will say is that the screen could be a little bit brighter. This is the brightest color, sort of like baby bluish. It actually looks a little bit lighter on camera. But if I go into the menu, there's a day mode and a night mode. So I have day and then night. It's sort of it doesn't really look too different on camera, but this is more of a dark blue, and this is more of a baby blue. And so you can set your color, day and night colors, and just switch it with this main setting. Just cycle through the day colors. This is sort of light blue, red, looks kind of orange on camera. This is purple, green, more of a white, dark blue, and a darker green, which looks pretty nice, easy on the eyes. But like I said, this is about the brightest color. Actually, this white is pretty good as well. But maybe I'll leave it on that. But I leave it up usually at day mode all the time. The screen could be a little bit brighter with polarized sunglasses. It gets a little bit dark, and it's okay with the sunlight. With the glare doesn't really affect it, so that's a plus. Contrast, I leave that all the way up. Brightness all the way up. Weather scan, I don't know why you'd turn this off where you wouldn't want it to scan through the weather stations if it can't pick up a signal, but it's there. Some of the diagnostic things, and CB Radio Magazine goes through all these features pretty thoroughly, so I'm just going to exit out of there, but just wanted to show that with the color and give my 2 cents. The other thing I don't really like is the squelch on this squelch knob, which is the outer knob here for, you can see it as you turn it up, you're no longer receiving, and then you turn it down and the noise level breaks the squelch. But on this dial here, to indicate where the line is, it's just a little bit of a bump on one of these sort of textured pieces here, and so it's kind of hard to see. And of course, it's not too important because squelch is kind of a relative thing. You just turn up the squelch until your noise cancels out. But I was thinking about putting some glow-in-the-dark paint or something on there to see it a little bit more easily, which would look kind of cool. That's just one thing, a little bit hard to see. Same thing with the clarifier, which might be even a little bit more important to see where that is. It's kind of hard to see with just that little feature on there. The smaller knob is easier to see, but what was I going to say? Yeah, these dials are pretty comfy to even with this texturing here. It's not rough. It's well done. Easy on the fingers. Same thing with the larger one. The channel knob sticks out a little bit farther, not by much. But anyway, the buttons. The buttons feel good, like I said earlier, and I don't want to go through these features. Like I said, check out that other video. There's one. I feel like there's one more thing. Oh, right. I was going to talk about the meter here on the radio. So on the display, it's pretty easy to see. Right here, I have it on SWR, which just to test the internal SWR meter. It's got a little bit of feedback when the mic was too close. Internal SWR meter is pretty darn good. Right now I'm running into a dummy load, so it should be 1, and that's what I'm getting. And same thing over here on my other meters. It's reading 1, and this one's reading 1. Not even moving here, going into this attenuator that I'm using as a dummy load. So +1 for the internal SWR meter. And even when I was testing on my antenna in my car, I was using this older meter, and this and the radio only differed by a little bit less than 0.1. So the internal meter is good enough to get you going if you don't have an additional SWR meter. What I was going to talk about was see, we're back on the S meter. I was going to talk about the display. I think the display is pretty well laid out. It's easy to read. The text is easy enough to read and big enough. But the meter takes up kind of a lot of space. So audio check. Audio check. It takes up kind of a lot of space on the screen. I wish they'd condense that a little bit, or maybe put maybe made about half the size. It's really not necessary to be this big, so they could have maybe made made the frequency a little bit bigger and easier to see, or put something else on here, maybe the time, something like that, because I don't have a clock in my car, so that would be kind of nice. But also with the SWR, it's calibration. With the SWR, it reads it. I showed a minute ago, but it has a bar graph over here, and then it reads it digitally over here, so that's kind of nice. And that's about it. So like I said, my only gripe with the display is the meter's a little bit big. And so that's about it. I'll just show my meters over here. I did a lot of tuning on this radio, like a couple hours worth, and I'm no expert, but I wish I had readings, power readings from when I got the radio right out of the box. I don't know if I improved it at all, but I think the readings look good, and I've been getting good feedback on the air. So I'll just show the meters really quickly. Running on the scale on the left is our outgoing watts. We'll key about 3. Audio check check. Audio check check. So swinging just shy of 4 watts. A little bit forward swing is good. Down here, audio check check. I have it on a different scale for sideband, so I'll go over to sideband. Audio check check. Audio check. Just wanted to show the modulation there. It's going pegging right to about 100 on your on the sustained words. So that's about what you want. We'll go over to sideband really quickly, swinging about 12 to 15 watts or so. Audio check check. Audio check. Audio check check. Audio check. Audio check. So we're swinging about 12 to 15 watts. Obviously I have one meter connected, and then the next a little bit of power is lost as the needles are actuated, so that's why they're reading a little bit differently. But anyway, so that's about it. I really like this radio. It's been great in my car. I have a Wilson 5000 antenna that I picked up used with a magnet base for a pretty good price. So that antenna's been good with this radio. So anyway, the only I'd love to get an amplifier, but I don't think it's really necessary just for talking on the highway like I am. And I would like a better mic. I mean, this mic's been fine, so I can't really justify spending the money on that. But maybe if a deal presents itself, or I can try it out with someone else's mic, I can see what the difference is, and maybe go buy one myself. So anyway, that's about it for the Bearcat 980. And please leave any questions or comments you have. Thank you.